Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. I'm excited to get started again on another training. Today is August 16th for you, those of you tracking the live dates on these. Today we're going to be talking about niching down. This is a really important thing for small businesses, really for a lot of businesses. When I say a lot, I don't mean the billion-dollar firms, but certainly companies that are in the $20, $30 million firm level, as well as those just getting started. Niching down will really do a lot for success. I did want to sit there and say to you that as we get started, a tip for you as we move forward. I just shared a document this morning on LinkedIn, and it's from the Department of Homeland Security, and it's management and performance challenges. This kind of document is really, really valuable for when you're doing business development and capture, so that you can go in and talk to folks and let them know that you understand their agencies, et cetera. So go take a look at this document. I did it for DHS, and it's just an overall DHS. There's probably ones for each one of the components in DHS, but almost every single agency out there, certainly all the big ones, have these same type of documents, management challenges or performance challenges. They tell you literally what they're running into, the challenges they face, both from a mission perspective, as well as from an execution perspective. And they're talking to themselves. This report is to themselves saying, hey, here's what we've done to try to address the problem. Here's what we really still need to keep doing. And so when you go in there and look at it, you'll get a lot of tips for how you can help customers like DHS. So that's my tip for success for you today, is just get in there and take a look at documents like the one I posted this morning on my LinkedIn profile. So let's get started with guaranteeing success as a government contractor by niching down. When you niche down, you're really going to be able to focus. One of the things that I see a lot of times with small businesses is that we appear to sell everything, right? I literally look at people's businesses and I'm like, I can't really tell what you sell. You seem like you sell everything, right? Nobody buys everything. No one ever goes out, a market researcher, federal buyer, and says, hey, I want to buy everything. Let me go find a company that sells everything. So stop selling everything, especially as a small business. You want to sell something small. You don't want a federal buyer to look at you and say, oh, you sell everything. That's great. When I need everything, I'm going to come back to you. Right now, I need something, and I'm looking for a company that sells that something, not everything, right? And this happens, like I said, to companies at all different levels. It certainly happens to those of us just getting into the market. And it's not unique to the federal market. It's unique to businesses. When we start a business, we start saying we sell all these different things. We try to think what our customers might buy, and we list them all in. But I also see this with companies that are doing 20 million, right? And planning on graduating out of small and going to the next level. But they really don't sell everything. They're just saying they sell everything. And I'll talk to you about why, even at their level, that's bad for their teams, et cetera. And so what I want you to do, and the whole point of today's training, is to sell one thing. I want your company to really come down and say, we're going to sell one thing, and we're going to be the very best at it. I said here, be a SDA, a Supreme Domain Authority. My last company, it was a Microsoft SharePoint-based company. And so what we told people we sold was SharePoint. SharePoint was like one part of a Microsoft stack that was part of the Microsoft company product stuff, that was part of software development and IT and professional service. Like I could keep going bigger and bigger, but we niched way down and said SharePoint, and we became known as the SharePoint company. That's what I want you to be known for, right? Sometimes people call it being pigeonholed, like put in a box, or actors are they're a typecast. Well, in business, you want to be that way because that's memorable, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But in today's training, I'm going to cover down on that, talking about what is niching. What do I mean when I say niching down, right? Why is it important to your success? I say you can guarantee success. Well, how? Why? How is that going to happen? I want to talk a little bit about that. And then I want to talk about when you're able to niche down, who is going to benefit from you niching down, who in particular in your company is going to benefit from that. And I'm going to wrap this all up with giving you some suggestions on how you can relook at your company and niche down, right, over the next hour, the next day, the next week, whatever time it takes for you. But this ability to niche down, I'll give you some tips that you can move forward. All right, and if you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. That's what I want for you. And that's the whole purpose of these trainings. Here you can see on my screen, I'm sharing the 7-step process to federal revenue success. This is what I teach people when I talk about following a process, right? If you want success in a particular agency, research that agency. Targeting is about finding people in that agency and then start calling people in that agency, including small and large businesses. When you do that, you will develop the relationships, strategic relationships that will allow you to find slam dunk opportunities to put in your pipeline and pursue in order to write winning proposals that can go to the government so they can award you contracts so you can make sales. That's a predictable, repeatable process for federal revenue success that I want you to follow. If you haven't done so already, do me a favor, let everybody know who you are. Let buyers know who you are. Let me know who you are and my team. Put your company name into the chat. If you're able to tag it on LinkedIn, like some people are doing, do that. But put your core competency, 2 or 3 words that just say, hey, here's what we do. You don't have to put a lot. In fact, if you put a lot into the chat for your company bio, no one's going to read it. We all just bypass it. Even I do, frankly. I need something small. If you put something in dialogue, that's a whole different thing, right? If you're chatting back and forth, you can do more because it's a threaded conversation. But when you're telling us about your company, make it really easy, 2 or 3 words, and we'll start remembering who you are. And last bullet here, just remember, we're doing training, but you also are in a community. Right now, just on my LinkedIn profile, we got 55 people live. And we have a whole bunch of people who are on our company page live, a whole bunch of people who are on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter live. And so this is your community. Engage with folks and build relationships that are totally separate from me and the GovCon chamber towards your success and the other person's success. All right. So that was a fire hose already, but we're going to go into a fire hose of training on niching down, right? So just briefly, I wanted to talk about what niching down is. And by the way, over in this red box, I just got this on every single slide. The riches are in the niches. What this line means is if you want to make money, narrow down what you sell. Niching is just narrowing down, right? I describe it as the cure for FOMO. FOMO is fear of missing out. I feel like if I say I niche down and I say I only sell shares, I'm never going to get the ability to do room construction or house building construction, hospital construction, whatever it is. Niching down is that cure to FOMO. When you have FOMO, you're engaged in too much and you can't land on one thing. Niching down is about having this one clear focused offer. When we talk to customers about visibility, I teach how to be visible out there. You want to be findable and attractive. What that means is if you're a cybersecurity company and somebody searches for cyber, you're one of the results that come up. That's findable. Attractive means when they look at your narrative, your capability statement, whatever, they go, hey, this is a cyber company. That's a clear, focused offer. And it makes you findable and attractive. I already kind of mentioned this at the start, right? I want you to sell one thing, not everything. Get known for one thing and it gets you in the door. That's what I mean by this creating a tip of the spear. When you get in the door, then you can begin to expand your offerings. But you need to be really good. Your company needs to be really good and well known for one niche down, clear, focused offer. And so when you say you sell too many things, it makes it harder and harder for those of us to remember. I was talking with a potential customer this morning, and they were telling me what they sold. And at the beginning, it was kind of a lot of stuff. And then at one point they went, cleared cyber. And I went, oh my God, I know who that is, or I know what you're doing. I know what you're saying you're doing. Not just that, I know somebody who's looking for people who can specialize in that kind of space. I can make that introduction. In fact, I will, right? I don't care whether I work with them or not. I mean, I care, but either way, I'll still make the introduction, but I'm able to make the introduction because they niche down from all the stuff they were saying early on to really, hey, this is what we really want to be known for. Perfect. Now I'm going to remember you. No matter whether we ever have another call again, I'll remember this company and I'll remember Cleared Cyber. And that's what I want for you. That's why I tell you to put your information in the chat. And then the last thing I put here for niching down isn't just about what you sell. It's about who you sell to. So don't sell everything and don't sell to everybody. Sell something really focused. And then I like to say niche all the way down to one agency. I'm okay if you're at a department level, right? I was talking with somebody yesterday who took my advice and niched down to CMS. And I told them, hey, it's kind of okay to expand up to HHS because of what they're doing. It would fit a little bit more, but I love that, right? They niche down to CMS within a Department of Health and Human Services. And what I mean by this is don't try to sell to HHS and Army and Department of Education, et cetera. You're going to be doing that same thing. Now you have customer FOMO, like you're afraid of selling just to HHS because what if the Army wants to work with me? What if DHS wants to work with me? You're not $1 billion company. Even $1 billion companies are focused on their target customers, target agencies. So just niche down on there. All right, let's talk about, and I think this is one of the most important slides I want to share with you, why niching down is so important. Because if you're going to take my advice and niche down, maybe you need some of the reasoning behind why it's going to help you. First thing I put here is make it easy to remember. Niching down makes it easy for me to remember you. When I say put in the chat your core competency, 2 or 3 words, that's coming from you being niched down. If you're niched down, your company's offering is niched down, makes it so much easier to say what you do in a few amount of words, which then makes it easy for me to remember. Just keep that in mind. Second bullet I put here is that niching down helps people begin to know, like, and trust you. People buy from those they know, like, and trust. But if you say you sell everything, not only do I not really believe that, right? It's just like, how could you? Booz Allen can't sell everything. Booz Allen does not sell tanks or something else, right? They don't do construction. They're professional services. They're a multi-billion-dollar company and they don't sell everything. How can you, right? And so it's hard for me to remember you if I can't really take you seriously. But if you niche down and you say, hey, like cleared cyber, I'll just use that as an example today. If you say we do cleared cyber work, I'm like, wow, I instantly start knowing them and remembering them. And eventually I'll start liking them and trusting them because of how I engage with them, or I see content they put out, or the responses to RFIs they share, whatever it is, it helps us begin to know, like, and trust you because we see you as that SDA, that supreme domain authority. Number 3, niching down allows you to focus, which then allows you to get more money. We talk about get more by doing less. And it seems really counterintuitive. Sometimes people feel like they need to do a lot more. It's like, no, you need to do a lot less, and you need to make sure it's the right things. And so when you're focused down on a niche, a clear offer, then you're going to be able to strategically go after the money that you can win instead of going after a lot of money that you probably can't win. And that focus, more money, is increased revenue for your company, right? And that's what you want. Number 4 here, I put in this, these are in 2 different categories, but this 4th one I talked about, when you niche down and you say, hey, we sell cleared cyber work, then you begin to look at the contract vehicles that are out there. And that thing gives you two great step forwards. One is you can see where the government is buying. And if you can get on those vehicles, then you know which vehicles to pursue. That's massive, right? Instead of pursuing all these vehicles. The second thing is you begin to know which companies are on those vehicles and which agencies are using those vehicles. So now you can pursue that cyber work, that cleared cyber work, by tracking the contract vehicles. But you couldn't do that if you're not niched down, because then you're looking at every contract vehicle or many, many contract vehicles. I wanted to bring it in-house a little bit. So the first 4 bullets are really general, broad strokes about why niching down is important. But number 5, I talk about the entire staff knows what you sell. This is really important. I've seen this in a lot of customers where I go in and they have, many people, especially when you're talking about a company that has 25 plus people, a couple of 100 people. No one knows what we sell, right? If we say we sell everything. Well, I know you say that and I hear that, but I'm in the company and we're not really doing that. We're kind of doing this thing or something. I do this exercise where I go around with customers that are larger customers like that. And I say, hey, everybody individually, I ask them, what do you think we sell? It's like rarely is more than 50% of the answer from each person the same. But when you have a clear focused offer, then you can teach your entire staff, whether it's 2 people or whether it's 200 people, you can teach the entire staff, this is what we sell. Cleared cyber. What does cleared cyber mean? It means this, this, and this. Pretty soon, everybody knows that. When they're out at happy hour, they're telling it to their friends. When they're in the at a client site and they're talking and they get a chance to introduce their company, they can say the same message. Pretty much every person is along that same line because it's one clear, focused offer. Number 6 here is recruiting becomes this massive differentiator. If you have a clear, focused offer, then your recruiters, your talent acquisition people can be recruiting. It's so much easier to recruit, right? Instead of recruiting cyber and software development and construction and this thing and that thing, it gets really hard, right? You want to get good at something. And so if you have a recruiter who's going after talent and they're talking about cyber, then they just get better and better with the cyber conversations. And because your company is a cyber company and you're able to bring more and more cyber people in, you're attractive to other cyber talent that might be interested in coming to your company because now they see a bunch of their peers that they could work with. And that's a differentiator when you're going into the government or with teams saying, look, we don't do everything, but we do this and we do it really well. And we have a tiger team. It can be a differentiator too, because you're able to shift people off of one contract to another really fast by talking to a happy customer and saying, hey, I'm going to move somebody in, move somebody over. When you're doing a lot of the same work, you make that possible and really easy for you. And so that's why I say recruiting becomes a differentiator. And the last point I wanted to get across is a little bit of what I already said, right? Is when you niche down, you start building a collaborative team, not just a staff of 50 or 100 people. My last company, we were SharePoint. Everybody who was there was SharePoint project managers, SharePoint developers, SharePoint administrators, SharePoint people who were doing the network admin server side, right? All of these people, we were able to talk constantly, share lessons learned from different clients, rapidly move stuff forward. If somebody had a problem, we didn't have to go to Microsoft to say, hey, can we get some senior engineers to advise us? We already had that group of staff in there. And so it enabled us to create this really strong, I call it a collaborating team. Sometimes people call them tiger teams, but imagine how powerful that is if you go to different customers who are looking for that. We were able to compete against Microsoft on contracts because we had so many people who did that one core competency, right? And that core competency, it could easily take us into the hundreds of millions. It was never so small that we couldn't grow. So the lesson, remember the riches are in the niches. Okay, so let's talk about who will help. And I'm just tracking my time here. Who's going to be helped when we niche down? By the way, if you don't do this, this is your community. You clearly value this training enough to be here and to come back. Occasionally tag somebody and say, hey, you should be checking out the training. Bring them in. If everybody does this, like right now I'm looking and we have easily 70 people who are in the training live, right? If everybody just invited one friend, then you potentially have 69 new contacts that you could be meeting because all these other people did that. Consider that. This is your community, but it needs you to build it. I'll facilitate it, but I can't build it all for you. You can help us build it. So invite somebody in. All right, let's talk about who and where niching helps your company. And this is a really important thing to me. Business developers is where I'm starting, or business development. And business development fundamentally is learning about an agency, building relationships, and identifying opportunities. That's what business development is to me. It's the first part of sales, basically. And so when you think about how niching down is, if you sell everything, it's hard to find any opportunity, let alone slam dunk opportunities. I mean, at some point, you literally are dragging these big bulks of opportunities and dumping them into your pipeline and saying, hey, well, look at these. There's a lot of companies out there that provide these feed services that just shove opportunities into your pipeline. The problem with that is that they're not slam dunk. And a slam dunk opportunity is one that you should be able to win. Certainly 1 out of 4 times that you go after it, it's a slam dunk. You feel like it was written for you. No one in your company has to rationalize going after it. Everybody's, oh, that's us, right? And so you'll find more of these slam dunk opportunities because you niche down and you can define the slam dunk opportunities. And that's what we need the niching down for. So it makes it easier for us to define slam dunk opportunities for the business developers that are out there. When we're out there, we're talking to the customer or teammates, right? But when we're in there in agencies and talking, we're not just kind of walking halls and saying, hey, you got any work for us or something. We're going in there as this subject matter expert. They begin to know us, right? I said we did SharePoint. Anytime we opened our mouth about SharePoint, we knew everything about SharePoint through and through. I mean, we worked with Microsoft, so we knew about stuff that was coming out before anybody else did. That's that level of expertise or niching down, the power that comes from niching down. But we were seen as trusted, subject matter experts, that we knew our stuff. I described it earlier, supreme domain authority. When you want to know something about SharePoint, go to these guys. These are the SharePoint companies. You want your company to be seen that way, right? And it doesn't have to be you. If you're but if you're a business developer and not the actual SME, then you're representing your company as the subject matter expert. We can help you on these things. And so you want to be seen as a SME. It helps open up the dialogue to this third bullet for business developers, that you're seen as a trusted advisor. You're not seen as a vendor. You're not seen as a government contractor. You're seen as a trusted advisor. If you've ever watched me talk about the sales life cycle, and what you want to do is shift left in the sales life cycle all the way back to the idea. When an idea pops into the government's mind and says, oh, I think we want to do this. Not even we want to buy this. They're just thinking about we want to do this. They haven't even thought about the procurement yet. You want to be at that stage. That's where trusted advisors are. Trusted advisors are helping the government customer think about what they need, think about where they should be going. When you niche down, you enable you and your company and your colleagues to be able to do that. So that's business development, right? Where you're understanding the agency better than they understand themselves, you're building relationships, and you're finding opportunities. When you find opportunities, you have them in the pipeline. The capture managers, they also will benefit from this niche down approach, because if they try to do capture on cybersecurity, and they try to do capture on SharePoint, or they try to do capture on help desk or construction or anything else, they get farther and farther away from being good at it. Jack of all trades kind of thing, right? And so when you think about a capture manager having a solid understanding and knowing that the company has a solid understanding of what they do, they can begin to shape requirements. And so capture managers, if you don't know this, if you're truly doing capture, you have an opportunity in your pipeline, and you're going back and you're meeting with the customer as often as you can, but you're trying to get in and talk with them. And if you can get in early on, RFI phase is fine, but if you can get in there and start talking to them about their drafts, requirement documents, PWS, SOOs, if you can talk to them about it, you can begin to shape that. And it makes it so much easier to shape that when you already know everything about the requirement. You're not struggling to figure it out, et cetera. Whenever I looked at a requirement in my last company, as SharePoint, I knew it in a second. Like, I could look, and I didn't have to take more than 5 minutes to decide not just whether this was good for us, but where it would fit and where the problems were, because I didn't look at things I didn't know. I looked at things I was an expert at, and those are the opportunities we try to find. Number 2 here, or the second bullet for capture, is this ability to rapidly assess your strengths and weaknesses. And that's what I was describing. The reason this is important is because when I want to build a team as a capture manager, because we're niche down and because I know what we sell, and I've done this over and over again, I instantly know that, hey, this is coming in. It's asking for cybersecurity with a level of business intelligence. That's not our strength. Let's outsource that to a teammate, and let's focus on this cleared cyber, for example, right? And the third bullet here, where I say own solutions, capture managers can own the solution. True capture management is going back and talking to the customer, right? And talking to your teammates about solutioning. You want to bounce the solutioning you're thinking off the customer if you can. Well, if we do this work over and over again, when we open our mouth, that supreme domain authority, we come across as a trusted advisor. We already are kind of guiding them into thinking about evaluating our proposal a long time later, just by introducing to them ideas about why solutioning this way is good, why solutioning, I think this would be a normal recommendation people would make, but this is not good for you because of this or something. So when capture managers, or the company is niched down, capture managers are able to take all that company experience and really go back and own the solutioning conversations, that increase their authority with the customer by having the customers around, or the conversations around solutioning. All right, and then the last one here is proposal team. So niching down is absolutely going to help the proposal team, because when you niche down, you do the same thing over and over and over again. Why do 10 different projects? Do the same project 10 different times, right? Get paid to do the exact same thing 10 different times. When you do that, not only will you begin to increase your profit margin, but you get better and better and better at it. So for example, I talked about writing RFIs and RFP responses within 24 hours. I could write a 25-page response in 24 hours when it was in my slam dunk niched core offering there. And you can do the same thing. You're not going to do it tomorrow if you haven't done it, but you can build to this pretty quickly. Actually, go look for somebody called Juliet Fletcher. She just posted a post today on LinkedIn, kind of talking about that from a proposal manager standpoint. But this idea of reusable content. If I use a quick example with SharePoint, if I'm migrating SharePoint from servers that are on site to a cloud, well, when I start doing that and I'm writing a response, pretty soon I've locked down everything I could possibly want to say about the migration plan, the migration process for SharePoint for my customers. So now I have an 80% reusable piece of content, and it could be 25 pages, right? And then I just tweak it, 20% tweaking to that specific customer. I know you have a unique need in the Air Force that the Department of Education doesn't have or something, right? That's just the 20% is tweaking it to the things you learn about your customer or the language of your customer. And the last thing I'll say here is past performances. When you niche down, the ability to help proposal writers lead us to a win with a winning proposal is this ability to have one past performance that covers down on all the needs of the government, and then a second and a third one, all the needs, right? If they have the ability to do 5 past performances, because we niche down and we let our business developers and capture managers drive us towards the same type of opportunities, the proposal managers are now able to reference those wins that the team has brought home for the company and that the company has delivered on. They're able to have all these similar past performances. I was saying this is the biggest problem with 8A firms. When they graduate, they have too many customers and they have too many contracts, different types of contracts they've won, instead of really focusing in on HHS and really focusing in on cybersecurity through those 9 years. So they have 100 past performances that are cyber, right? And that's what you want. You don't want it tomorrow, but you want to put a plan in place tomorrow that leads you down that path. So we got a few minutes left. Let me just really quickly tell you a couple of tips on how you can niche down. First thing I would recommend is figure out what your company's good at right now. If you're a one-person company, what could you go get a job at some company doing? Are you doing artificial intelligence? If that's what you could get a job at, then that's what your company is good at, right? That's what I would do. If I went to get a job, right, not a job, but if I went to get a customer right now in the government, I would probably sell social media communication. I get 2-3 million views at least a year. I got 2 million in the last 90 days, right? I can help an agency reach industry. That's very important to them. I can help an agency reach citizens. That's very important to them. And I can do that through social media, in particular LinkedIn, right? That's what I'm great at. That's what my team's great at. That's what we would sell. I want you to look at all the things you might say you do if you currently do everything, right? And nail it down to saying, what are we best at? And let's go sell a bunch of that. Here's another example. The second bullet is, if you don't know this, in the federal government, there are 10 common goods. We call this category management by grouping these in, but there's 10 common goods all agencies buy. And then there's 9 extra ones that only defense buys, and you can go look at those later. What I want you to do is to pick one common good. If you're trying to niche down, don't be in 2. If you're in IT, be in IT. Don't be in professional services and IT, because you begin to diversify too far. So what I want you to do is look at this. You can find this on GSA. Just type in GSA common goods into Google and you'll find this list, right? And then once you find these and you pick one, you go, you know what? We're not actually professional services. We're HR or human capital, workforce development, et cetera. Well, then go to this next page farther in and keep diving down. And so if I went to, I don't know where human capital went. Oh, there it is. So here it's human capital and training. But if I clicked on it, it would actually go down. But look over at IT, for example. Here, it's got cybersecurity is separate from data. If I wanted to sell cybersecurity, I'm going to go to the CISO and the SOC. If I want to sell data services, I might go to the chief data officer. These are all different people, different offices. I mentioned that post I did a couple of days ago where it's HHS's org chart for CMS. In there, you will find all these different offices. This is a way to niche down, is to start looking at what are we best at and who buys it. And so GSA's got a great way to help you start thinking about breaking down those common goods into something there. All right, so I know we're going pretty fast here and you can go back and watch the replay, but here's what I want you to remember, right? Most importantly, the riches are in the niches. When you niche down, when you do less, you will make more. You will have more success. If you found value in today's training, throw a thank you into the chat. For all of us, just remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.